Hello everyone, welcome to the Ask Dr. Lin show where I answer commonly asked questions on our website. Hey, did you know that we now have two new forms of digital learning? Our Baker View seminars and our Baker Paper white papers. It's free to view and download right now in our academy. So join our Baker Academy today and enjoy the benefits of a free membership. Why is this all free? Well, because we have awesome sponsors. They are here to fund our research and write these papers just for you. So join our community today by becoming a member. Go to BAKERpedia.com/academy. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Lin, and today I'll be covering the latest bread trends and what technologies you can use today to support these trends. If you'd like to share this paper with your team members, it's now available at the Academy for downloading. All right, before the pandemic, bread sales were stale for a while, with limited growth of bread at 1.5% in traditional categories. There seemed to be an increasing demand for greater variety of breads like ethnic breads and flatbreads. There is significant more growth in the gluten-free, keto, and vegan areas, and I will be diving deeper into these technologies later in this episode. Bread manufacturers are leveraging the acceptance of regional bread specialties to create value-added products in order to diversify their assortments. Fortified, clean label, and organic breads are the preferred bread categories across the world, with the rise in health-conscious consumers. We looked into the US growth data on the fresh bread category to see how it's been doing year to year. I was surprised to see negative growth and slow growth. But 2020 saw an epic growth because, bread is the go-to sustenance during the adversity. I always thought bread consumption was highly related to population numbers. So I was interested in understanding whether our population growth declined over these periods as well. At average, population growth didn't exceed 1%, averaging instead at 0.7%. So I was wrong in my assumption that bread sales growth, averaging around 0.4%, is dependent on population growth, which really tells me that bread is an emotional food and is highly dependent on diet trends. Prior to 2015, the height of the gluten-free trend was the last time we saw significant growth in bread sales. This trend is pushed by folks who believe gluten was bad for them. Well, that all went to the wayside when the pandemic hit. Last year was an unusual year, but we saw a 3 times increase in growth. So what does this mean to us? Even at $9 billion, there is a market for bread, but growth in this category is highly dependent on emotions. Yes, folks, bread is a highly emotional food here in the US. So how do you keep up with figuring out where the growth is? Follow the emotions. Follow influencers, look at social media, see what's going on out there. Let's talk about the first emotional pull in this category of bread: gluten-free. At the peak of the trend in 2015, 8% of people followed the gluten-free diet. 64% of US consumers indicated to consider such a diet, which is really not scientifically proven to be healthy. There is an estimated 9.2% growth in the gluten-free products category, meaning that gluten-free is no longer a fad. It is a very, very strong trend, mainly because it is widely accepted and is a mainstay on some QSR menus. Because of this, better ingredient technologies have been developed, from functional fibers like oat fiber, maple fiber, and psyllium, to multifunctional starches like modified amylopectin tapioca starch. These amazing technologies have resulted in better texture and taste and an incredible extension to shelf life. All right, just as you thought no other trend could be better to invest in than this one, just listen to what I have to say on the next one. The vegan trend. Millennials are dieting just like the boomers, but their reasons for doing so seem to differ. 1 in 5 millennials are becoming vegans in pursuit of both physical and mental wellness and a desire to reduce their climate footprints. So among all the trends, I see this one as having the highest growth due to this emotional pull. Remember what I said about bread being an emotional food? I'm gonna tell you the truth on this one as well. I am also a fan of this diet trend because it is actually scientifically proven to be good for you. The reduction in cholesterol, saturated fats, and a diet high in fiber. Add to that an emotional call to save the environment and animals. It's going to show to be a strong winner in the trends for the next 5 years. Remember, this is a community of people who really care about what they eat, are very sustainable, and are very verbal about their vegan needs. I've got one more thing to add about the vegan trend. With all the protein technologies and plant-based derivatives, we are going to see an explosive growth in this category because I've seen how amazing some of these ingredient technologies are. And it will do amazing texturizing and shelf life extension work in the bakery segment. Now, these days, we don't need to go far before we hear someone on the new ketosis diet. Did someone say keto? Listen up, this is also not a fad anymore. It's here to stay. So, what does the keto trend do? Well, it makes you eat more servings of vegetables per day. It increases your fiber intake. It limits highly processed foods or fast foods in your diet. And it limits foods with added sugars. Choose non-caloric drinks like unsweetened tea and coffee. Regardless to say, it's not an easy diet, but it is a really effective one. And the marketplace is now seeing very few processed products with the word keto on it, mainly because not too many people can really define what keto is. There is strict keto and not so strict keto. The low-carb diet market is expected to grow by 6.4% by 2027. This is where gluten-free was when it first started. I think the potential of this category is very high. However, its growth is being stunted now by the lack of research. And because of the lack of research into keto ingredients, there isn't much to offer in technology either. However, since it feels like the beginning of the gluten-free trend here, I'm very optimistic that there will be plenty of ingredient technologies supporting this niche coming from plant-based technologies. And there will be plenty of possibilities for growth. Up next, I'd like to talk about brioche. It isn't a healthy bread with high sugar and high fat content. But do consumers care? No. Why? Because, like I pointed out, bread is an emotional food. The super soft, sweet, fluffy brioche reminds everyone of France. They like to eat it and equate it to the eating experience they found in France. So it's an interesting growing category of bread, with growth being pushed by the demand for brioche-style hamburger rolls in QSR chains. Next, I'd like to talk about the organic bread segment. The organic bakery segment is at 2.5% CAGR at a whopping $9.7 billion. Yes, it took a hit last year, but it's predicted to grow over 10% to reach over $10 billion in sales in a couple of years. That's definitely a guaranteed growth at the rate I see how the natural aisle at the grocery stores encroaches on conventional shelf space. Definitely tons of room for growth here due to strong innovation. However, this is restricted to supply chain and land dedicated to organic farming. Branded CPG items sell nicely in this niche. Therefore, those of you bakers out there, it's time to seriously look at branding your products properly. It is the fastest growing market in Pacific Asia, and it is the largest market in Europe. About 56% of the global consumers are looking for no artificial preservatives or additives products. The global clean label ingredients market size was valued at $38.4 billion in 2019 and is anticipated to grow at a CAGR of 7.4% during the forecast period. According to Nielsen, the share of clean label sales is up 33% of total food and beverage sales. This is a strong mainstream movement with the millennials driving the trend, though it's much bigger than just them. At least 93% of US households have purchased a clean label product at a grocery store, and half of all shopping trips now include the purchase of a clean label product. What I am saying is that you must lead your efforts with clean technology. Clean label technology must be in your product portfolio as most R&D teams are focusing in on it. I created a video covering these 13 tips on clean label baking. Just follow the link below in the summary. I talk in depth about colors, flavors, emulsifiers, dough conditioners, enzymes, leavening acids, heat-treated flour, trans fat-free fat, anti-mold preservatives, antioxidant preservatives, starches, fibers, and hydrocolloids. It seems the clean label trend will remain strong for the next few years. So at BAKERpedia, we'll focus on finding innovative solutions, experimenting, and baking, even reaching out to companies that are not sponsors or showcasing on BAKERpedia. Under clean label, there is Artisan, sourdough, and natural yeast bread. I've placed these subcategories of bread under clean label because people perceive them as clean label, or you can buy them in the natural foods aisle in the grocery store. And though each of them deserve their own webinars, it's not something I see that the mainstream industrial baker would totally switch this year because it involves a heavy CapEx investment. While all the other trends that I mentioned previously are less CapEx dependent. There is a hotbed of consumer demand at the retail bakery level for these items. I believe what's going to happen in the next few years is that industrial bakers will be buying up brands in these categories to grow their distribution channel. I mean, who does not love artisan and sourdough breads? Well, since all these trends are under the clean label umbrella, meaning that if you launch a product in the keto, gluten-free, vegan, and organic category, you would have to use clean label technologies. I have decided to devote the next few slides on how you can do this with ingredients, equipment, and methodology. Instead of these oxidants, emulsifiers, and preservative on the left, you can use aged flour because it is naturally oxidized. Therefore, it is stronger with a higher absorption. Aged flour also machines better, therefore cutting down the need for more emulsifiers. Now, if you need more information on this, just search all these terms in red on BAKERpedia and it would bring you to their topic pages. Next, Enzymes can be used to replace these oxidizers like potassium bromate and ADA, or emulsifiers like datum, SSL, and mono and diglycerides to improve your machinability. You can also use inactivated yeast to reduce L-cysteine if you need. Don't forget, there is also vegan L-cysteine available from Wacker if you still need L-cysteine to work for you. Look them up on our L-cysteine page. To increase emulsion, you can always look towards lecithin as well from companies like Sourdough and IFC Solutions. That would actually help with stability and a better texture for the final product. Lastly, you can use cultured wheat from J&K Ingredients, fumaric acid from Bartek, and sorbic acid from Belchem to replace calcium propionate in all kinds of bread products, including pizza and tortilla. Due to the inconsistencies of wheat quality in organic flour, gluten is usually added to keep it consistent. In clean label techniques, some bakeries choose to add more gluten to replace the removal of oxidants and emulsifiers. Therefore, the mixer is working longer and harder to mix out doughs. We might see a few more mixer replacements in the next few years, but I'd like to request for you to keep an eye on the dough temperature because you actually double your yeast usage if you don't. And think about using sponges that would help hydrate and relax the gluten so that you can take some strain off your mixer. Remember, in such instances, you can use ice, tempered water, or a mixer with a coolant jacket. If that's not possible, then mix in smaller batches. And if you need a new mixer, reach out to our sponsors VMI and Doyon. They are on our sponsor showcase. Let's look at the oven next. How can this help us clean up? Most of you know that when I go into a bakery, I usually do it with my breadometer from ECD. Because it's the first thing I run at every bakery I go. Every time I run this instrument, I've shown bakers that they are not baking correctly. Using thermal profiling, 90% of the time, I cut their baking times by 5%. Yes, I increase efficiencies by 5% using this instrument alone. The other 10% of the time, they are not baking enough. So what do? No, I don't just increase their baking times. I increase front zone temperatures. So by studying your oven humidity and heat flux, you can also do this with the Scorpion 2 by Reading Thermal. You can optimize your baking process and maybe help solve your bottleneck there. Again, to learn more about how to do this, BAKERpedia. One more thing, by using the breadometer and the Scorpion 2 instruments, you can prevent over baking. And why is this important? Because organic and clean label products are more prone to staling. Therefore, it is so important to optimize your bake. Did you know cooling is also important in clean label baking? You must cool your bread and do whatever it takes in your power to limit this to within 1 hour for loaf breads and 20 minutes for smaller sized bun products. Condensation within the package encourages mold, and natural preservatives just don't work as effectively under these conditions. Therefore, target 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.8 degrees Celsius and quickly package it to reserve your moisture at 38% as regulated by the FDA. Clean label breads without emulsifiers cannot handle excessive cooling and will result in crumbliness shortly after it's packaged. Remember, not only does warm bread encourage condensation and mold growth, it also kills your slicer blades. Last but not least, I want to address food safety. I know this may not be your area of expertise, but I can't emphasize how important it is to have a clean and well sanitized bakery. While you're fine and dandy developing clean label products, you must be aware of these precautions and how your work environment will affect the food safety aspects of your new clean label products. I'll give you the heads up on this one, but natural preservatives don't work as well as its calcium propionate counterpart. Sometimes you may have to double it with an acid just to get the same effect. In addition, mold is very hard to control if you don't have a sanitation SOP that addresses mold spores and flour dust. Remember, if you are an organic bakery, you can only use approved chemicals for that particular line. Places like Ecolab or your local sanitation company should have organic cleaning chemicals. However, if you're a mixed bakery, you can use stronger conventional cleaners for your floors. Please do so when you get the chance. Lastly, my advice on keeping Listeria, E. coli, and Salmonella at bay is to use clean and dry methods. Keep the bakery as dry as you can. Keep the wash area as far as possible from the final packaging and staging area, and do a wet clean only when it's necessary or once a week. This is worth the effort, getting the hot spots down. Is this all worth it? As you can see, taking the step towards organic or clean doesn't just involve the product. It involves teams, the entire baking ecosystem, and a level of leadership that has the innovative mindset to take the company to the next level. So, innovation doesn't only cost money, it makes money as well. Don't forget, it gives you an opportunity to optimize your people and process. So, if you're working in teams and you need to get your team members on the same field of understanding as yourself, why not share this Baker paper? Download this paper today in our Baker paper section on the Baker Academy and share it electronically with them. To be a member, it's free. Remember to just sign in and download. As bakers, we must live up to the brands we represent and deliver the same results every time. So kudos to the commercialization and tech services people out there. You have challenging times ahead of you. But remember to stay ahead of the curve and commercialize now.